What's good, everybody? Welcome in to our Early Edge week number 4 NFL Mega Preview, brought to you by our good friends at Caesars Sportsbook and Casino. And you see the stars of the show. It's one of our most important hours of the entire week. This is where it gets started. So first and foremost, live from Nashville, Tennessee, the penthouse level. M Squared, welcome back, sir.
Good afternoon, Coach. Good afternoon, RJ. Everybody ready for another week here. Love this show. Let's get to it.
You're damn right. He is the man who is everything NFL for us at SportsLine and the Early Edge. He is the stoic one, R.J. White. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Coach. Coming off a great week with my picks here and on the SportsLine site. So hopefully everybody is following along there. Got some good numbers. Thankfully, got the push on the site with the Texans +3 when that game could have went either way. So yeah, definitely get the number. You know, when we say the advantage is there, and we think the line's going to move. That's what you got to do.
We tell you all the time, whether you watch it live or whether you watch this on demand, this is the most important show of the entire week because the lines change over the course of 5 days. And then on Sunday, we say, hey, we won. You're like, wait a second, I didn't. Well, if you watched on Tuesday, this is Tuesday. Let's get it started. Now, we've got a big Thursday night game, ladies and gentlemen. The Dolphins on the road at Cincinnati. The game right now sitting at 3.5 Bengals. Even though the Dolphins are 3-0, gentlemen, total sitting at 47. RJ, start us off. What do you like on this game? I'm a little surprised that it's 3.5 to the Bengals.
And it's actually moved up to 4. And I think what that tells you is that somebody kind of knows something about Tua's health and might think that he's going to get ruled out from this game. But I'm not necessarily going that way, and I'm not trying to jump ahead of the number. Since he won their game thanks to turnovers, but that offense suddenly isn't just suddenly fixed. They're still 32nd in yards per play. They have the worst yards per play of any offense, including the Bears, including the Texans. Since he's D ranks well, but the best QB they've faced so far this season is Cooper Rush. And now the defense has DJ Reader out, so they're not as high on their run defense going forward either. If Tua plays, I can't see Cincinnati stopping the Miami passing game with their defense. If Teddy Bridgewater plays, he can limit mistakes, unlike the Jets were able to do last week, and give Miami a chance to win the game. So I'm waiting on this line. I'm waiting to see if Tua gets ruled out and it moves up a little more, and we get a juicy number to play Miami at +6, +6.5, maybe even +7.
Such fantastic advice. So, Mikey, let me come to you. I guess from a prop perspective and also a DFS perspective, which you are obviously basically in charge of at SportsLine, what do people do with this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. Look, it's going to be a fun game anyway in terms of parlays, same game parlays, a lot of talented wide receivers, pass catchers in general in the game. But yeah, you got to know a little bit on Tua's side. However, I will say for the Dolphins with Bridgewater as a backup, it is not that big of a drop-off. Yes, Tua, I think the jury's kind of out, in my opinion, on how good he actually is. But I don't think it's a significant drop. So I'm like RJ here. I make this game closer to -1 for the Bengals, and that's giving the Bengals quite a bit of credit. So I think there's some value on the Miami side. However, it is concerning when you're that far away from the market here. It definitely indicates that there's a significant chance that Tua doesn't play. I personally believe he's going to ultimately end up playing. I just don't think we're going to have clarification on that until game day, potentially even 90 minutes before at official inactives. One piece of advice I would give here, which is not something we generally want to do, but just because I do believe they could ultimately be fine with Teddy Bridgewater playing. Now that it's at 4, if it somehow can get to 4.5 at some point with more speculation, and you have another leg of a teaser you like, I don't hate it. It's a primetime short week. You can now get this team up to 10.5 against the Bengals. I'm not sure the Bengals are 10.5 points better than really many teams in the NFL. Certainly not this Miami team, even with Bridgewater is the quarterback in the spot. So, and then of course, if Tua plays, you're getting fantastic value at 4.5, teasing the 4.5. So that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Computer tells me definitely a clear play on Miami, although it's very concerning that the market has moved to 4.
Yeah, we saw very much the same type of situation with the Chargers game hosting Jacksonville last week, where we didn't know about Herbert. It was moving 7 down to 3. Then he played, moved back to 7. And the value was entirely on the Jags. The Chargers with him were never in the football game. So be very careful. Another thing that Mikey has taught us over the years, the market always overcorrects for a quarterback. They're never worth as much as we think they are. So be very careful. I love that analysis. All right, let's move on to Sunday games now. Now, this is the first time that we're seeing a game overseas. So it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, Vikings and the Saints. I'm sure, gentlemen, they are thrilled to be going to London to play this game. But the Vikings coming off a big comeback win down 10 late. They win at home. The Saints looked awful. The total 43.5. Mikey, let me start with you.
Yeah, this one's kind of ugly. I don't really want much to do with this game. It normally would be a situation if it were a home game for the Saints where it'd fall into a teaser candidate where they're plus 2.5 at home, get them to plus 8.5. Great spot for that. However, because the game is in London, you have the travel factor. Not something that I personally want to get involved with. I think the market is mostly efficient. We do see some lower scoring games in London. That said, I have a slight lean towards the over in this game, assuming that you can still get 43.5, 44, very key number in the NFL. So right now, my only lean on the game is going to be over because of the 43.5.
This is a game, and a lot of good points there, RJ, that usually gets bet big. And the reason for it, it's a standalone, even though it's still on Sunday. So there's going to be a lot of people that want to bet this game. What would your advice be?
I think the line for the spread is basically fair. I downgraded New Orleans a point, though, and upgraded Minnesota a half point after last week and got to this number. So if anything, if my moves were too extreme, the value is probably on New Orleans if you want to play the spread. I think the under is fine. I looked it up earlier. I believe the under is 8-4 in the last 12 London games. It's not like a massive trend or anything, but that's, as Mikey's saying, that's the way those games tend to go, at least in recent years. The New Orleans defense played well last week, aside from one Chenault whiff at the line of scrimmage. They held the Panthers around 100 yards passing. So I think that defense is kind of coming into their own now. Olave is emerging as a legit weapon, which helps them overcome their injuries to other receivers. We have Landry and Thomas both dealing with injuries now. So even if they're down to just Olave, it might be a thing where the passing game isn't that out of whack. I am worried about Jameis's health. He hasn't looked great in these last couple of weeks. So we'll see there. I'm a little scared to tease it just because I don't know what Saints team we're getting. But if I'm going to play the spread, it's probably a lean to the Saints.
Good question by Greg in the chat, RJ. Is this considered a primetime game for Kirk Cousins? Interesting question.
Well, it's definitely out of his comfort window because I think a lot of the speculation is he has his pregame routine, that what he likes to do. And obviously when you're overseas and starting at this weird body clock time, it's going to be way different for him. So if you buy into that, then it's not necessarily a primetime game. Obviously at the time there, it's not even a primetime game in London. It's like 2:30 or something there. But in terms of messing with his flow and messing with his prep, it might be considered a primetime game for our purposes.
And here at the Early Edge, we all know how much we hate when somebody messes with the flow. We know that, RJ. Thank you. All right, moving on to the regular 1 o'clock games on Sunday. And I'm going to start here because this one is interesting. And, RJ, you have a play in this game. The Browns laying 1.5 at the Falcons. The Falcons have looked pretty good. Last week, they looked pretty good in Seattle. Who is this team? RJ, which team do you like in this game?
The Falcons' offense looked pretty good. The defense looked awful in the game, considering their opponent. The look ahead here was Cleveland -3. It's moved after Atlanta beat Seattle, but I don't know that beating Seattle is that impressive, even in Seattle. A lot of us were on Atlanta for that game. It moved from +2 to pick them at some point. What I'm impressed with is Jacoby Brissett. He's making great decisions. He's throwing with authority. And so when he's got that zip on the ball and he's making good decisions in the offense, I'm less worried about the Cleveland quarterback situation, which was the main reason I had them ranked below average to start the season. So now I've upgraded Cleveland to an average team. And that upgrade now has this line at Cleveland -3.5 because I still think the Falcons are among the worst teams in the league, even though they aren't in that complete bottom level. But so Cleveland with those type of teams, I thought coming into the year, Cleveland can beat those bad teams with run game and defense. But now Jacoby Brissett shows that he can move the ball when he needs to also. So love getting Cleveland -1.5 as a best bet.
Mikey, it's going to be very interesting when a few weeks from now we have the thoughts of Deshaun Watson coming back. But right now, this is Jacoby Brissett's team. And with him, they're kind of mashed it up. You got the two-headed monster in the backfield. How much do you like the Browns right now?
I love them, especially in this spot. I make this number -3. It's a great spot for them. Jacoby Brissett, like RJ said, has been fantastic. A lot of it is also having Amari Cooper, who has been surprisingly good here too. We didn't really miss a beat at all from Dallas. I think the most surprising thing, though, is still Jacoby Brissett. Looking at quarterback efficiency so far this season, at the top, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, top 5. but right behind them is Jacoby Brissett. He is clearly a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. As crazy as that sounds, I'm not sure how much better Deshaun Watson can be initially in week one of his season. So, yeah, I like Cleveland. They definitely got a significant upgrade from the baseline that we thought we would see from Jacoby Brissett. He is playing incredibly well. I think they're deserving of a number of -3, maybe even -4 in this game.
So if you're watching at home right now, whenever you're watching, if you're watching live or on demand, get the Browns. If you get it less than 3, you are getting value. But 1.5 is a lot of value for this game. All right, moving on to the next 1 o'clock Eastern game on Sunday, gentlemen. Now, RJ, it's your Buffalo Bills laying 3.5 at Baltimore. This line, again, shocks me, but that's why you're the experts. Now, it's laid out for everybody that forgets last Sunday. The Bills go to Miami, had a chance to win, clock management horrible, and there is a gif forever of the Buffalo coaches losing their mind. Baltimore looked really good, beating the Patriots by 11. So, RJ, I'm going to start with you again. The Bills laying 3.5. Why?
Yeah, well, if you remember last week, I said I don't know why that Dolphins line was so high unless the Bills were the 07 Pats, and people were treating them like that after 2 weeks. It just didn't make sense to me. I thought that line should be like 1.5. And I'm not going to say I was vindicated because that game was very weird. And so Buffalo's statistically just blew the doors off them and just, shot themselves in the foot. So apparently Buffalo is a team like last year that will make mistakes in certain games like they did with that Jaguars game last year. But here we're talking about two of the best offenses in the NFL facing two beat-up defenses. We'll see the state of the injury report with these two teams, but it figures to be a game with a lot of points. Baltimore's defense is 31st in yards per play, giving up 458 yards per game. I don't know how they slow the Bills' offense. But Baltimore's offense first in yards per play, top 3, both rushing and passing, and they can exploit those Buffalo injuries, both on the interior, the defensive line, and in the secondary. So I think 51.5 is a pretty low total for what two amazing explosive offenses that have been proven to be explosive offenses. This game, I think, might get to 60 or higher. So I love the value here on the over.
Mikey, the over, or are the Ravens being, I guess, doubted because of the fourth quarter against the Dolphins, who then beat the Bills?
Yeah, I think the Ravens are being doubted and downgraded defensively, really is what it is. Lamar has been fantastic. His connection with Mark Andrews has also been really, really good. But yeah, the concerning thing is the number of points allowed overall. The way they let Miami come back, even last week against New England, they still gave up quite a few points to a team and an offense that frankly isn't very good. But I like them on offense. They're just fantastic. So my lean would be towards the over here as well. I have this game at 54. I'm a little stunned that we're not seeing 53.5. That's really where I thought the market would be on it. Haven't played it yet, as I do kind of see it trending down here in the market a little bit, which is interesting. I get it. The Bills have a strong defense. But yeah, my lean is towards the over here. And
Mikey, do you think that's weather related? And people in the chat are talking about the weather. Do you think that's the hurricane coming in and people are expecting lower scoring on these East Coast games?
I think it definitely is. I think that the timing of it all is going to be very, very interesting. And it's frankly a little too far out, in my opinion, to say that it is definitively going to impact it there. But yeah, I definitely think that that's probably why we're seeing 51.5 and not 53.5, as generally these totals kind of match up with the model pretty closely. So I would definitely say that's why you see that. But as far as should it be a full 2 points like that, I don't necessarily agree with that strong of a reaction.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't like to bet the game early. They want to wait and see. This is where kind of the luck part of betting comes into play. When you get this great, amazing advice and analysis, sometimes you get lucky or sometimes you don't get lucky. It's up to you. We only give you the information. You can make the bet. Now, moving on. And this is another game that I'm very, very interested in because we love to tease about how Dallas has been horrible for 25 years. They're now 2-1. And Cooper Rush has won both of those games. They're at home now against a team that is a perfect week 4 opponent. We're talking about the Commanders. Mikey, I'm coming back to you because last night as a brand, we loaded up on the Cowboys, and we were right. Do you think we can do it 2 weeks in a row?
I think so. I like the Cowboys. I played them here as a best bet, -3. Yes, it's up to -120. Yes, I'm comfortable paying the -120. It's bounced around between 3.5 and 3. Ultimately, 3.5 is mostly available now. I think the number should be 4.5 in this spot. Look, I've been pretty impressed with what we've seen from Dallas. I mean, CeeDee Lamb dropped pass away from that game actually kind of being a blowout last night, which sounds a little crazy. But defensively, they are fantastic. And then on the offensive side of the football, we talk, in our private group chat, we talked about Zeke a little bit last night as well. He's still very good in pass protection, which is ultimately helping this team a lot right now. I think they're clearly the better team. I think Washington has taken a massive step back. Yes, it might be an overreaction after watching them 3 weeks, but they have not looked good. They have not shown much at all, really. Playing competitive football games with the Lions, while the Lions are a much improved team, I'm not ready to give them much credit for that in this kind of a spot. Division game on the road. Look, I think that this number should be 4.5, and it really wouldn't surprise me if it gets there by Sunday.
RJ, what we've seen, Mikey just laid it out perfectly. What we've seen from Washington is at times, yeah, they can score against bad defenses, but that's not what this is this week. This is a great D that could just stifle them.
And maybe not even against bad defenses either. I mean, they didn't get anything in the first half against, I believe it was Detroit in week 2. And then they finally rallied back and scored some points. Same thing happened again last week against a much better defense. Now they have a very tough defensive matchup here, gave up 9 sacks to the Eagles. I don't know, they might give up 10 sacks to Micah Parsons alone in this game, considering how much terror he's wrecked. But great job by the Cowboys offensive line too. I mean, we had a lot of questions about them coming in the season. They've showed themselves well. They used Jason Peters a little bit at guard for a few snaps. They gave up 0 sacks against the Giants. I know the Giants don't have an amazing pass rush, but still, when you have an inexperienced quarterback back there who's in the pocket, if he feels even a little bit of pressure, he might, fold sometimes. But that's not what happened. Cooper Rush looked great. Offensive line did a great job. Tyler Smith, the left tackle, the rookie, is looking really good. And I think they can hang in and destroy some teams if they have a great pass rush against a bad offensive line, considering the other team can't turn around and do the same thing to them if their offensive line is looking pretty solid. So I think the value is also on the Cowboys, like Mikey. I would make it 5. I initially moved the Cowboys 8.5 points down in my power ratings after the Dak injury, but Cooper Rush has proved that that's probably too aggressive of a move, and the defense showed on the road that they've come to play this year. So I now have them at -2, so that's about 4 points off of where I had the Cowboys initially, and that to me makes this line -5 for the Cowboys. So I do think the value's there as well.
Cooper Rush has been terrific. He's earning himself a lot of money right now. If he's not the starter in Dallas, somebody else will give him a starting nod because he is composed, he's good. And if they just throw Dak back in, if he continues to win, to me, it's not a foregone conclusion. Dak walks back in as a starting quarterback. I don't think so, but I know they're paying him $40 million, but
it's really like we thought Dak was going to be back in 3 weeks the way Jerry was talking. Now it's like, sit down for a little while and make sure you're 100% healthy. Take 5 weeks, take 6 weeks, because we don't need you back.
That's exactly right. That's a great point. All right, moving on. Another 1 o'clock game. We've got a West Coast team traveling all the way to the Midwest, as my beautiful Crystal likes to say, who's from Detroit. But it's the Eastern time zone, and that's what's important. Lions are laying 5. Now, they may be the best bad team in the NFL, meaning they're not winning games, but they're playing good competitive games. So at least that's a good thing. Now, the total's sitting at 50. Seahawks looked pretty good, Mikey, last week on offense, but how do you see them matching up going on the road into Detroit?
Yeah, no, they look good on offense, and I think this team kind of profiles similar to Atlanta in terms of the defense that they're going to see. I expect them to put up points. I kind of lean towards Seattle, which is a little crazy. We're always cautious with the West Coast teams traveling to the East. It's a Midwest game. I want no part of it right now. This is a game that is one that I'm most likely to live bet. And my intention with live betting is trying to play the over in this game when we get this thing maybe down to 46.5, 47. Of course, the issue with that is if we see an opening drive touchdown, we're not going to see a number that low. Not going to be able to get a play in on it. But my lean is over, lots of points being scored. And my lean is Seattle to cover the spread here at 4.5 or 5.
And RJ, speaking of the over, you've been really high, not only on the Lions preseason, but also they've been an absolute over juggernaut through these first 3 weeks, rather. Do you like them like Mikey to the over again this week?
Right. We knew that coming in too. We knew the defense was going to be pretty bad. We knew the offensive line was upgraded and looked pretty good. The weapons were upgraded. And so if you had any confidence at all in Jared Goff, this is going to be an over team each week. I do like them to the over two, but the key thing here is the Amon-Ra St. Brown injury. The line's dropped at 1.5 points. It was 6. Now it's 4.5 with uncertainty around his status. They're talking about how it's not a serious injury. And they add, if he misses time, it's not going to be much. So it kind of makes me think he's going to miss some time. He's going to miss this game probably. If he plays, I like going back to the over on the Detroit game, but it's just a lean for now. I need to see that he's in the game. Seattle offense showed it can move the ball versus a bad defense last week, and that Detroit defense now is missing Tracy Walker out for the year, the veteran there at safety. So if they were that bad, even with a veteran presence there, think of what they're going to be with the next guy up. So I think it is going to go over, but I'm not interested in playing it unless I know St. Brown's healthy.
Let's put a pin in that. We'll revisit it at noon Eastern time with our Early Edge Mega Sunday preview that RJ is certainly a part of every single week. All right, moving on. We've got another 1 o'clock game. And you know that emoji, guys, that you can send on your phone where it's like throwing up? That's how I feel about this next game that we're forced to talk about. The Chargers. Now, I'll give Justin Herbert a lot of credit. He said, I didn't want to come out of the game. I didn't want to quit. Well, you're down 28 with bad ribs. Staley, take him out of the game. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But that's his team. He can do what he wants. But they're laying 5 on the road in Houston. The Texans have not been good at all. Total sitting at 44. RJ, let me come right back to you. Why are the Chargers favored by 5?
Well, the interesting thing is leading up to that game, they made it seem like, well, it's up to the player and it's pain management. And that's awful for coaching. It's like, don't put it in the player's hands. He's going to always say he can play. And so you have to make what's the best decisions for your franchise and for the player and take him kind of out of the equation with his health. And I think he clearly probably shouldn't have been playing in that game. And definitely not late. And the offense now, it's kind of malpractice. Once Rashawn Slater went down, he's just going to get beat up. That offensive line losing its best player is not great. They were already down Corey Linsley. So now that offensive line is a shell of itself. Even if Keenan Allen's back for this game, I don't think the offense can be explosive with protection issues and with Herbert managing that injury. Houston's D actually solid versus the pass. It struggles versus the run, but the Chargers couldn't do much with the run last week. So I don't know that they're going to come in and hand the ball off 25 times in this game either. Houston's offense 31st in yards per play. They were limiting mistakes before that back-breaking interception last week. I took it under 45.5 on the site. I still lean toward the under at 44, but don't love the number. And I would probably lean Texans on this line, just knowing the state of the Chargers offense.
Yeah, it really feels like this is only going to go down. And Mikey, the way that Herbert got hit specifically in the second half last week, you got to believe that RJ is right, that the game script for them, if he's going to play, is that you can't get him hit. And that means either quick dump offs, quick runs, but certainly not that explosive down the field where he has to wait. How do you see this game playing out?
I don't know because I don't plan to watch it either. I have no interest in this game at all. So, all I'll say is I'll echo what RJ had to say. I do think you'll see them attempt to run the football a little bit more, try to protect him. Not sure why he's playing. Not sure why he was playing so late in that last game when the result of the game, the outcome of the game was clearly decided at that point. Very sketchy stuff going on there from the Chargers. I do think that this would be, for me, it would be an underlean if you were determined to take a spread on the side. It would be the Texans for me at home. This looks like a situation where if it doesn't start well for them in this game and they're not able to win, this Chargers season could spiral out of control pretty quickly here. I want no part of this game, but if you force me to, it would be under and Texans.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not watching this for one single solitary second. All right, we've got a lot more games to get to, but as you know, we got to pay those pesky little bills. Here's a word from one of our incredible partners. And we are back. We continue on. You're watching the NFL Week 4 Mega Preview with M Squared, the Stoic One, R.J. White. I, of course, am the coach here at the Early Edge. We are getting to the end of our 1 o'clock games. Then, as always, the NFL screwing us this week because we only have 3 4 o'clock games, but a whole bunch at one. I hate when they do this. Now, Titans and Colts as a brand, nothing yet. I'm sure by Sunday we will get there. Colts laying 3, total at 42.5. Mikey, I'm starting with you because the Colts shocked the world last week, and they beat the Chiefs. It was ugly, 20-17. Chiefs have issues. The Colts, they've looked average and bad, and then good. Who are the Colts?
Somewhere in the middle. Look, they didn't really deserve to win that game against Kansas City. Kansas City shot themselves in the foot pretty significantly, starting with a muffed punt that turned into a touchdown in the first quarter of the game. Set Indy up 1st and goal at the 6-yard line after a great defensive stand. Just some artificial stuff there from Indy. Look, they're not the bottom of the National Football League, but they're certainly in the middle at best. The issue is I could say the same thing for the Titans team as well. They did have a nice win over the Raiders. My only lean in this game, though, is the over at 42.5. Look, I know these guys want to run the football. You're going to see a lot of Taylor. You're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry. They both are explosive enough, though, that I have to lean over in this game. I personally make this number 45. It's at 42.5 right now. That is my best play in this game. As far as whether or not the Colts should be laying 3, I think it's pretty fair on their home field, what we've seen for both teams so far. So I don't think there's a ton of value on either side of the game.
Okay. Well, when you look at the totals that the Titans have had, 41, 46, and 48 through 3 weeks. So based off of what Mikey just said, RJ, do you think the over is the play here?
I could see it hitting. Indy didn't play well. They needed Kansas City to trip all over their own feet repeatedly to win that game. I had Indy plus 6.5. I'm not sure they even deserve to cover the 6.5 with how they played. Tennessee's offense still playing well, getting Henry involved in the passing game, which is a new wrinkle. He came out of nowhere for I think 5 catches, 50 yards or something crazy, which makes him more interesting. I know in DFS, Mike, when you can rely on the guy for more pass catching than you thought possible. Tennessee's defense 30th in yards per play, but 2nd on 3rd downs. So a pass rush, I think, can get to Matt Ryan here and make Indy a little bit in trouble there. I have Indy a point better than Tennessee. Still, I have Indy at average 0, Tennessee -1. I'm not sure I believe it. You could flip those numbers and I could probably be fine with it too. So I think Tennessee is probably the play here, but wait till it gets to 3.5. It looks like it wants to go to 3.5. And then I probably make Tennessee a play.
I'm absolutely with you. I thought they looked pretty good last week. By the way, John in the chat says Colts destroyed 25% of all survivor pools. Here's a little survivor pool rule for you from me, and then RJ's our survivor pool guy at SportsLine. You don't take an away team till you have to. That's the whole rule. RJ, what's your rule in survivor pools?
Be flexible. I came up with a lot of plans before the season, and I've had to adjust. My plan was to use the Chargers in week 3 when the Herbert injury happened in week 2, just to Philly. Mm-hmm. I wanted to use Philly in week 4 this week against Jacksonville. But I moved Philly up because I was going to just use the Chargers against Houston this week. Now Chargers lose even more key players, so you have to be more flexible here because now we're going to get to the Patriots-Packers game at some point. Mac Jones probably isn't playing in that game. So now using the Packers in week 4. So it's just whatever you have, keep planning week to week, kind of know where you need to save teams for, but always take advantage of things when they come up, like this Packers game against the Patriots, and be flexible with your planning. Don't just immediately lock into a team if you really wanted to use Kansas City last week or said I'm just going to use the Chargers anyway and hope Herbert plays. You got to be able to be flexible and pivot to a team like Minnesota or Philly.
Did you hear the word that RJ used multiple times in those sentences? Planning. So many of you don't want to sit down and lay out the entire schedule. Take the 30 minutes. Take the 45 minutes. Lay out who you think that week works and then be flexible. But don't just throw it. Then you get to week 10, you're like, oh, shoot, what do I do? You have to plan. Listen to my guys. Now, moving on. Another 1 o'clock game that I'm guessing neither one of you will want to watch. Bears at the Giants. Giants laying 3.5. They're now 2-1 after losing last night. And really, I thought Daniel Jones ran the ball very, very well. Sailed over his total, but he didn't make the throws he needed to make. Then some bad injuries as well. Total sitting at a very low 39. RJ, let me start with you. How do you see this very ugly offensive game going?
I don't understand why you don't want to watch it. This is proof that time machines exist because we're getting to watch 1974 football here from the Bears where they're running the ball however many times a game, and Fields has 23 completions in 3 games. Chicago's offense completely one-dimensional. They should be able to be limited by good defenses. I'm not sure the Giants have a good defense. They looked awful on Monday. Yet that line still went up because nobody wants to back Chicago. We said get the Giants at -3 on the look ahead because that line was going to go up if the Giants looked good at all on Monday. They did not, and then it still goes up. So the one worry here I have here that I'm not willing to just jump on it at 3.5 is that the Giants rush D was awful without Leonard Williams. So if he's healthy enough to play, I love the Giants here. If he's not healthy to play, I probably still like the Giants, but he was such a key absence in that game against the Cowboys that I'm a little more, worried about that if he's not in.
Mikey, there's a great question in the chat from Greg. He said, is there a price on a spread that indicates the spread is about to change? Great question.
Yeah, I mean, generally looking at a line, one we talked about earlier, actually, which is a game that I'm trying to think where I just had it. Sorry, I'm blanking on the team Dallas. We were just talking about Dallas, where I played it at 3 -115. It's sitting -120. It's already 3.5 at other books. That's generally a really good indication that it's moving that way. There are other little things that you could potentially see, but those are almost always going to be just generally related to player status. Whereas this one on the Dallas game is just generally related to just general activity in the market. So basically looking at the money line price on the spread, moving off of -110, you could see it in either direction where it's headed.
I would encourage you to follow Mikey, follow RJ on social media. They also love to drop little nuggets on their social media pages to help you out with questions like that. Or you can come to the early edge and ask that question. We'll answer as much as we can. Mikey, thank you very much. Did you have anything you wanted to say on the Bears and Giants? I doubt that you did.
Yeah, no, nothing really other than, hey, we got we got David Sills last night, came through for us on the primetime stream. You're going to see a little bit more of him going forward, even though he's replaced Kenny Golladay. Sterling Shepard torn ACL out for the season. So we'll be interesting to see how they replace that going forward here in this game.
That was an awful injury. That was just awful. Nobody around, nobody touched him, and he completely wrecks his ACL. Awful for him. Awful for him. All right, moving on. Now, when we saw this game on the schedule, gentlemen, at the beginning of the year, and I would have told you, come week 4, this would be one of the games of the week, you would have laughed at me. You said, Coach, you're an idiot. But that's where we are. Jags on the road at the Eagles, a place that the Jacksonville head man used to be the head man at. I love it. Now, -6.5, total sitting at 48. Both of you have interest in this game. Mike, I'm going to let you start with yours, and then I'll have RJ do his. What do you like in this one, Mike?
I like the Eagles. They're one of the best teams in the NFL so far, in my opinion. Jalen Hurts has been fantastic. The addition of A.J. Brown has helped them tremendously. Look, they're healthy at this point in the season, so I really like them. I think the Jaguars are a little inflated here. It is a tough test on the road here after some pretty, it's not uncomfortable travel, I won't say, but it is noteworthy travel heading West Coast, now back to the East Coast, back-to-back weeks here. Love this Eagles team, though. So I've got them in a teaser, breaking a little rule here, but it's bringing them down to -0.5 point, essentially playing them on the money line here in teasers. I love the Eagles in this spot. I think this number should be 8.5 at a bare minimum, and I could argue all the way up to 9.5 in this spot. I think a lot of the value here is also coming from the fact that Justin Herbert played in that game that the Jaguars beat them in. Had it been Chase Daniel from the start in that game, this line is definitely north of 7. So, yeah, I think there's pretty good value here on Philly.
We have new people that come into the show all the time. What rule did you break?
Just some of the teaser stuff. When you have a line like this, especially here, you're looking for them to be at 7 or 7.5, 8, just to bring this number down. Here, the reason why I'm saying breaking a rule is the market is telling me they're not strong enough to be a full touchdown favorite. So generally people would caution about, teasing it here at that spot. But I personally don't care about it because my simulations make them much more than a touchdown favorite here. Again, all the way up to 8.5, 2 full scores. So that's why I'm going to tease it. But most would want to only tease it at 7.5.
All right. So if it's sitting at 6.5, RJ, and Mikey says it should be much higher, what play do you like in this game?
I also agree it should be much higher. I have best bet on the Eagles -6.5 too. Philly might be the best team in the NFC, though I will caution the schedule hasn't been too tough. They haven't had to face, pretty bad schedule. I think the worst team they faced was Minnesota in terms of toughness, and that was a primetime game with Kirk Cousins, we know. But the key thing is Jalen Hurts has the pass game at number 1 in yards per play, proving that he can do it as a passer. They were a run-heavy team last year, and they're willing to throw the ball here. You can pair it with a solid run game on offense, and that's a very good offense. And then the defense is strong on all three levels, and it's a tough task for Jacksonville's O-line, which has looked pretty solid the last couple of weeks. They didn't benefit from that Bosa injury last week, so we'll see how they do in this game. I moved Jacksonville up 2 points with their improvements, and I still only put them just -7.5 on the projected line here because I'm so high in Philly. And I do think it is a brutal travel spot. I think having to travel West Coast 1 week for one game and then come all the way back home, and then the next week you have to go up and play north at Philly, a couple-hour flight, and then you have this hurricane in between. They're going to have to be dealing with that. It's going to be kind of in the path there around Jacksonville, so they have to worry about that. With if they have to go travel to Philly early, they got to worry about their families. There's just so much going on that's distracting for them in this game. So you couple the bad travel spot with now hurricane planning, with the playing one of the best teams in the league. I think this line should also be north of 7, and 6.5 is going to be a best bet. I don't know that it moves much further down from this.
Do not overthink this, ladies and gentlemen. You heard all those reasons. Sometimes there are external factors that really can affect a game, and this game will be part of that. And the Eagles are just much, much better. Love both these plays. Reminder, RJ's on the Eagles. Mikey has them in a teaser. We'll get to his other leg in a second. Next game, still at 1 o'clock. I feel like there's 15 games at 1 o'clock this week. Jets and the Steelers. Now, the Jets, well, they looked very pedestrian against the Bengals last week, and the Steelers the same against the Browns. Steelers laying at 3.5, total sitting at 40.5. RJ, let me come right back to you because the Steelers, we all know that they've never had a losing season under Mike Tomlin. But last year was close, and they look like the same team again. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know that they may be downgraded at quarterback with Trubisky. It doesn't look great. The offense doesn't look great at all. This number seems right to me. We'll see how Zach Wilson looks in his first game coming back. Remember, he didn't have a preseason recovering from that injury. So I think he's probably going to be rusty in this game. He does have an opportunity against a struggling Pittsburgh defense. That's not the same without TJ Watt, but I don't know how he's going to be, timing wise with his receivers. The Pittsburgh offense, not appealing at all. 30th in yards per play, number 32 in time of possession. The Jets D has struggled on third down. I don't know if Pittsburgh offense can take advantage of it, though. I kind of like the total when it was north of 41. I think it was 41.5. It's now dipped down to 40.5, so I'm not going to play the under there. So if I had to play anything, I'd probably lean Jets, but that's, hesitant because I don't know how Zach Wilson looks. Now, if he comes out and looks good in the first quarter, bang the Jets, obviously, because I think they're going to win the game.
Yeah, Mikey, that's a very interesting situation because we've been waiting on the fighting Zach Wilsons to rear their ugly heads because Joe Flacco, I think we all can admit, his best days are far, far behind him. How do you see this game playing out this week, sir?
Yeah, I'm not betting on it pregame. Like RJ, I'd like to watch and see Wilson at least one full possession here. I'm expecting a little bit of rust, so it could present some interesting in-game opportunities there. But again, if he looks great, I do think that the Jets are the right side in the game. But it is a road environment for the first start here. Didn't play preseason, obviously, here. So I'm not touching anything else in the game. I have the slightest of leans towards the over, but that makes the assumption that Zach Wilson is ready to go and not something that I'm willing to invest in at this point. So I would watch it. If he looks good, I would take a number on the Jets in game and then just look for simple overreactions in the total based on the first drive of the game, first two drives. If we're sitting in a spot where we have 10 points in the first two drives of the game, there'll be some interesting in-game unders available at that point. So live betting opportunity, potentially, nothing pregame for me.
And watch, I would just tell you to watch Mikey because if you've never live bet in a game before, it can be very dangerous. It can be very difficult, and you got to know the right time to do it. Am I right, Mikey?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You can lose a lot of money and frustrate yourself very quickly trying to live bet for sure. You can also make a lot of money and do very well. Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, and my guys do. All right, now we have finally, or as my good buddy the Rocky, finally have arrived at the 4 o'clock game, 4:05, and this is also a very interesting game. Rubber meets the road for both of these teams. Now, the Arizona Cardinals had one of the great comebacks in recent memory 2 weeks ago, and then last week they laid an absolute egg. They were awful. Kyler Murray, awful. Now they're traveling to Carolina. Baker Mayfield and the Panthers, again, very pedestrian. The Panthers are favored by 2. Total sitting at 44. RJ, I'm going to start with you because you love the Cardinals in a teaser leg in this game. Tell me why.
Yeah, the Carolina pass game scares nobody. They had 103 yards without that busted Chenault play, which could have been tackled at the line of scrimmage. The defensive back took a bad angle on him. He cut inside, runs off for a 67-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden Baker Mayfield has 170 pass yards in the game. But Arizona's defense, 32nd in yards per play, so maybe that can be the cure for Carolina's offense that we've been waiting for the last few weeks, but I don't trust that Carolina offense. Arizona's offense, 32nd in pass yards per play, not scary at all downfield, still missing DeAndre Hopkins, as we know. But they have shown the ability to rally after going down. They didn't come close to beating the Rams, but they got back in that game defensively. They held them, down, didn't allow any more points. I thought the Rams were going to score 30 plus with how their offense is versus this defense. And Carolina just doesn't seem capable of that type of big point total. So I like teasing Arizona up, thinking that this is going to be a lower scoring game. Panthers can't get up to the 27-30 range. That would scare me in a teaser. So that's why I put Arizona in my teaser leg here.
All right, very good. We will get to the second part of this teaser in a moment. But, Mikey, I got to come to you because we had somebody last night watching Early Edge Live that basically got on us about the odds for the VJM, saying, your stuff, why do you play such long odds? I said it's a fun bet. The donkey parlay is also a fun bet. We continue to hit that, but you're introducing this week right here on the show a donkey teaser. I'm here for it. Explain.
Yeah, so first off, I do have Arizona in a regular teaser and a new thing that I'm calling the donkey teaser, where we're going to tease 4 legs on the teaser, 4 of my favorite plays of the week here. But Arizona, love them +2. I would argue that the wrong team is favored here. I make Arizona -1.5 even on the road here, giving them, I think that they've had some unfortunate results. Kyler's looked awful at times so far, but has also looked fantastic at certain times in games. I think the further we get into the season, the more he gets things figured out. Like RJ said, the passing game on the Carolina side, not really going to be able to push the Arizona secondary, in my opinion. So I make Arizona favorite in this game. Got him at +2, which brings it to +8 in the teaser leg. That one I have with Philly -0.5. So you need Philly on the money line, and you need Arizona +8. That is one of my teasers. And then Arizona +8 is in the donkey teaser that we will recap at the end. The only thing I will say is go get on this now, because I am certainly not the only one who thinks Arizona should be favored in this game. Since we have started this stream, this line is now moved to 1.5 at Caesars. It's available 1.5 to 2. Get it before it's 1.5 universally everywhere. Definitely get it before it gets to 1. You definitely need at least 7.5 in your teaser, because remember, a push in a teaser is a loss. You do not win. It does not drop out like a parlay. If you push a leg of a teaser, it is graded as a loss. Get this in before it moves to 1.
You're damn right. We joke about it all the time, but I'm dead serious. People watch the show and they change the lines. It's just fact, because that's how good my guys are. Now, RJ, let me come to you, because our next game that we're getting to, Patriots and the Packers. Now, Mac Jones out, injured. That hurts this Patriots team. Green Bay won a very ugly game, stopping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a 2-point conversion, 14-12. And then Aaron Rodgers blaming the Jumbotron guy for giving him a tip on the last play. What's a Jumbotron guy doing? But that shows how in tune Aaron Rodgers is at all times of the game. So the Packers laying a robust 10.5, total sitting at 40.5. Is this too high?
I don't think so. I have the line at Green Bay -11 with Mac out. I only moved New England down 3.5 points with that too, because I do think that there is a higher floor for them with an experienced coach like Belichick than there would be with some of these other coaches, that I'm not as big a believer in. And we know Brian Hoyer has played before, so it's not a green young player coming in his first action. So, but I still think 11 is the number. So my lean is a little bit to Green Bay. I give their offense pass for a tough matchup on the road against an elite rush defense. But the big thing there is Romeo Doubs emerged as a reliable weapon for Rodgers. He caught all 8 targets. Rodgers has needed a guy like that he can rely on. And it looks like Doubs might be the guy after that game. On the New England side, half of their pass yards went to Devontae Parker, and you just can't replicate that. He's not going to go 5 for 120 ever again, probably, much less, regularly in the season. I think it's a great spot for the Green Bay defense at home against Hoyer. New England's team total only like 14.5 here. I might look to that under, but my lean's probably to Green Bay -10.
Mikey, after week 1, RJ said, be very careful, because Green Bay did the same thing last season where they looked like crap on week 1 and then started playing their game. Well, what happened this year? Crap on week 1, They win on week 2 at home, and then they win week 3 in Tampa. Have we once again underrated the Packers?
Yeah, definitely. We've underrated them. They've caught a couple of breaks in terms of scheduling so far, but their defense is legit, just like the Tampa Bay defense that they just beat is very legit. They're going to shine in this game. It's a Brian Hoyer game. It's always difficult to, rate the true downgrade from someone like Mac Jones here. Like RJ said, you have to give Belichick's team a little credit, just generally, no matter who they're throwing out there. He's earned that over the course of his career individually at this point. So I agree with him. I think this game should probably honestly be closer to 12. The issue with it being closer to 12, if the game's truly in hand, is there a ton of reason to continue to push and make sure they're winning by multiple scores there? I lean towards Green Bay. I lean towards the under still. I do like RJ's look on the team total under on the New England side, even potentially an in-game play on that as well, depending on how they look, whether they're able to manage a field goal early, whether they're not moving the ball at all. There are scenarios here where this Patriots offense doesn't scratch 7 points in this game.
Amazing. And if there's one quarterback that does not care about the spread, only cares about getting the W, it's Aaron Rodgers. And there's not a better game manager than Aaron Rodgers. Be very careful with the spread this large. Thank you, Mikey. Great points by both of you. Now, Greg in the chat, one of the funnier lines of the day, he goes, I think Chad Powers is the backup for the Patriots. If you guys haven't seen what Chad Powers is, it's hilarious. Eli Manning, I think, is the most entertaining Manning brother, and he's better after football than when he played football. Go check out Chad Powers at ESPN, Eli Manning show. It's really, really funny. All right, we've got 3 games left, and they are important ones, okay? So far, we do have a play from this next game from Mikey, so I'm going to start there first. Broncos, they have looked average at best. They've not been, let's ride with Russell Wilson. They've been, let's not get bucked off with Russell Wilson. A late win over the 49ers, or they would really be trying to figure it out from a winning perspective. Total sitting at 44.5. The Raiders are 0-3, and they're favored, -2.5. So what, Mikey, does that tell us?
Look, it tells us it's been an unfortunate season so far for the Raiders. They deserved to win the game against the Cardinals. They did not. I say they deserve it. They obviously don't deserve it if they are willing to collapse like that, but they definitely should have won that football game. They've been competitive in terms of final score pretty much everywhere here. But it's a division game. And look, the Broncos, say what you will about their performances. Their defense is absolutely legitimate. Russell Wilson has not been great at all. They've had some very unfortunate coaching decisions so far this season. One thing I did like, though, Russell Wilson had a game-winning drive in that game against San Francisco, who also has a very legitimate defense. Maybe that sparks something here with them. Either way, it's a fantastic teaser candidate, in my opinion, at 2.5 or 2. I have it at 2.5 personally. I believe it's now 2.5 at William Hill. You get this in a teaser up to 8.5. Look, I don't think this Vegas team is blowing out many opponents, especially not a division opponent with a defense of this caliber. So it's a fantastic teaser leg for me. Absolutely love it. I've got it a couple different ways. One of the ways I have it is with the Philadelphia Eagles. It is also in the donkey teaser. But look, I'm looking for a 1-score game either way here. So let's go 8.5, get it to 2 full possessions.
RJ, when a first-year head coach hires after 3 weeks a consultant to help with game management, to me, that is a huge red flag. Should we be playing anything into that?
Well, he had him after 2 weeks, and then they went out and won. So maybe that's why the chalk that up to the game-winning drive was chalk it up to that guy, give him a raise. Denver stumbled into that win. They gave 3.7 yards per play from the offense. It's the opposite of the previous 2 weeks, where they had a huge yards per play number, and they were, cannot finish in the red zone. Still can't really finish in the red zone. Vegas does not deserve to be the only 0-3 team in the league. They're not the worst team in the league by any margin. I think that they're in the same tier as Denver, which is kind of what this line is speaking to. So I think the line's right. Though I know the Raiders obviously need to win more. This is more the kitchen sink. Our season's over if we lose this game. So we got to go out and get this win. So I would lean to them, like the better at 2 than 2.5, but it's probably going to be a stay away.
Okay. Very, very good. Of course, we'll have full analysis of all of the early games Sunday at 10 a.m. and then, of course, at noon Eastern, all the way up to the kickoff of the 1 p.m. games. But you talk about a rubber meets the road game. And we're not talking about, just to have an average season. We're talking about potentially making it to the Super Bowl. Home field matters, seeding matters, and these early season losses count just as much as the late season losses too, which brings us to Sunday Night Football. We have two teams that had bad losses a week ago, two teams that believe because of their quarterbacks should every single year be Super Bowl contenders. So, RJ, I'm coming back to you first. Chiefs on the road, favored currently at 2.5 in Tampa Sunday night, the total sitting at 45. Tell me why the Chiefs are favored based off of what we saw last week in Indianapolis.
Well, they're still the number 2 in the team in the league. They shot themselves in the foot, like Mikey was saying, against Indy. But the offense really hasn't looked in form the last 2 weeks, so that gives me a little bit of reason to worry. Defenses look great, though. Tampa Bay's offense decimated at receiver last week. That wasn't the Bucs that we saw last week, so I'm not going to chalk anything up to their offense there when he's throwing to Cole Beasley and Rashad Perryman and Scott Miller on those routes behind Gage, who had 13 targets himself. So we know at least Mike Evans is going to be back in this game. He didn't miss for injury. He missed for suspension. So Brady will get at least one guy back. We'll see about Julio. I would make this line Kansas City minus 2.5 on a neutral, and it may end up on a neutral. We don't know what's going to happen with the hurricane. They're talking about playing it by ear, seeing if they have to move it to Minnesota or to New Orleans. I think they might wait till Friday to make that determination. So definitely wouldn't play anything now until we know where the game's going to be played. If it is in Tampa Bay, I think there's value on the Bucs with their good home field at plus 2.5. But still a lot to find out about this game as the week goes on.
Mikey, we've seen a lot of frustration already from Tom Brady outwardly through the first 3 weeks. But for the first time that I can remember, we're starting to see it from Patrick Mahomes, too, getting into it with Eric Bieniemy at the end of the first half last week. Now, both guys seem to be frustrated. Why do you think after 3 weeks they are?
Yeah, I mean, you're frustrated anytime things don't go the way you thought that they should. And, that was a very disappointing loss. They, like RJ said, Colts at 6.5. Colts probably didn't deserve to cover that game. The Chiefs should have won that game by 10 points. Just a very unfortunate situation for them. I'm not terribly worried about it. And the defense has actually been pretty good so far. As far as this game, I haven't bet anything on it at this point. And the reason is I, like RJ, have no idea where this game's going to be played. I think there's a pretty significant chance that they do not play this game in Tampa Bay. You'll see some line movement if that is the case for sure. But look, I'm not playing it until I know where the game is played because it makes a big difference. And then I think that it's kind of crazy to talk about kickers too much, but Kansas City has missed Harrison Butker significantly since he's gone down. They left a lot of points on the field from ultimately decisions that they made related to kicking the football, and the result of some of those easy kicks definitely changed the outcome of that game in Indianapolis. Against this kind of Tampa defense, it projects as a game where the kicking game is actually going to be very important for Kansas City. Amendola was released and cut, earlier today, I believe. So it tells me Butker's either going to be back or someone else new is going to get the job here. But until we have a little more clarity on that and where the game is played, I can't get to anything because if this game is played in Tampa, I make it essentially a pick 'em. It's like less than half a point edge for Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Let Justin Reed kick, please. Let him be the kicker.
I would love to see that.
Well, the nice thing for us is that it's a Sunday night game. So we've got 7:30 p.m. Eastern Sunday night to break down the entire game. We'll know where it's going to be played. We'll know who is healthy. We'll know who is kicking. We'll know it all. So that's a nice thing for us. It's just going to be a highly bet game, a high interest game. And this is what we love here at the Early Edge. So that is Sunday's live show at 7:30. What about Monday at 7:30? We've got a big-time NFC West matchup. The Rams. Maybe we're sleeping on the Rams. Maybe we are. Who knows? Because they're going on the road to San Francisco, and Jimmy G looked very much not like a really good starting quarterback last week against the Denver Broncos, but they're favored by 2.5. Total sitting at 42.5. Both of you gentlemen have a play in this game. So, RJ, I'm going to let you go first. What do you like here?
Well, I do like the Rams at 2.5, but it's a clear teaser leg at 2.5. So I tease them up to plus 8.5. Like Shanahan owns McVay. That's my one worry about playing the Rams. Won both games last year as the underdog. He's won 6 straight against McVay. But you're right, Jimmy G did not look like an upgrade over Lance against Denver. We'll see if he gets into rhythm there. But I think the worry is that he might not be a very good quarterback. What I'm more worried about on San Francisco's offense is the offensive line. Trent Williams, dealing with a high ankle sprain, going to miss, I think, around 6 weeks. That is a massive drop-off between him and his backup at left tackle. He's one of the best left tackles in the game. So when you get in a situation where when they're playing a good pass rush, that really makes a difference. And now look who's coming to town, Aaron Donald and them boys for the Rams. The Rams had trouble putting away Arizona, but 7.4 yards per play was good to see in that game. The offense looks like it has some explosiveness there. So we'll see if they can continue that, and it'll be even better once they finally get Van Jefferson back, he of the Van Jefferson Memorial fame. So I hope to get the Rams +3 before I play it. I love them as a teaser right now.
My God, you make me laugh so much. I love working with you so much. You're a savage, an absolute savage. Mikey, let me come to you. We see RJ's teaser leg, but you also like the Rams here, and I don't know a world that I would ever live in that the 49ers, even though RJ makes a lot of good points, but they look better from week 1, better week 2, better week 3, and then if you get 8.5 in the teaser, wow, I'll take that. What do you got?
Yeah, it's got to be the Rams here. It's the perfect teaser leg at this point, 8.5 division game. Yes, it's on the road. It's a game with a lot of history between the two teams, but I wasn't super encouraged with what I saw from Jimmy Garoppolo the other day. I was on 49ers to win. They probably should have won the game still. They didn't. A lot of that is on him. They didn't use Deebo Samuel quite the way that I was expecting them to, but you got to give a little credit to the Denver defense. Ultimately, I think that this is still a one-possession game either way, and it's all going to come down to which Jimmy Garoppolo do we get. Is he going to make that turnover a mistake and it goes one score in the favor of the Rams? If not, are the 49ers going to be able to kick a field goal, win a game? Like RJ, I would play a full play on the Rams if this thing hits 3. I think that that's a pretty good spot for them. But I love it in the teaser. So I've got this one teased with Denver +8.5. You're getting 8.5s on both of them. Really classic teaser there. And then, of course, it's in my donkey teasers this week that I'm about to recap in probably the next 10 minutes.
And this is why money management is so important. If you put a game in on Tuesday, it's going to sit there until Monday, but it's the right play. If you wait until Sunday, this is gone. It is gone, and that's just the way it is. So get it in. And then forget about it. Let it sit there. And then we all cash together on Monday. All right. So it is that time. Grab your paper. Grab your pencil. It's time for our best bets courtesy of Caesars Sportsbook and Casino. So let's take a look at our best bets for the show. Mikey, start us off, sir.
All right. Dallas Cowboys -3. This line should be -5. It's going to trend that way all week. Pay the -120. One of the rare cases where I will tell you it is okay in this spot. Teasers, Broncos +8.5 with the Rams +8.5. Very friendly numbers. Get them while it's still available at 2.5. Eagles -0.5 in a teaser with the Arizona Cardinals +8. Another teaser, Broncos and Eagles, very similar. Love these 4 teams this week. And then the new donkey teaser, never seen before here. Eagles -0.5 point. Cardinals +8. Broncos +8.5. Rams +8.5. +260 when you tease them all together.
M squared, always looking to break out something new. RJ, you're up.
I have the Browns -1.5. I believe they're a significantly better team than Atlanta, who actually does not have a great home field advantage over the last few years. So it's another reason to like that game. I have the Eagles -6.5. I think Jacksonville's in a very tough spot with their travel, plus with the hurricane stuff going on. And the Eagles are one of the best teams in the league, like not having to lay 7 points at home with them. And then teasing the Cardinals and Rams, getting both of those up over 7. So the numbers at 8 and 8.5. I think both of them are playing 2 offenses I have serious questions about at this stage of the game based on injuries and based on how they've looked. So I like Arizona and the Rams to score enough points to make those teaser cash.
You never want to miss our mega preview every single Tuesday at this time. Also Thursday, Sunday, Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then also Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, our Prop Spectacular, everything NFL all the time, presented by our good friends and partners at Caesars Sportsbook and Casino. So with that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. What another good show. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all these NFL tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, love them all. M Squared, the Stoic One, RJ White, and Jake the Snake on the 1s and the 2s. I am the coach. This is such an important show to watch. If you're an NFL bettor, don't get caught on Sunday when these numbers are long gone. Only one show to watch. We like to call it The Early Edge. Good luck.